watch me just never be able to open my eyes while I film this because I'm filming directly in the sunlight, and the granite around my pool is toasty, so I'm probably giving myself third-degree burns. But add that to the chaos, add that to the chaos. We actually haven't had that many sunny days here recently, so I'm taking advantage of this, on top of the fact that my youngest son is at baseball camp and my oldest son is still sleeping, and I never get mom time in my pool, ever, literally ever. So I think it's like adult swim time, you know what I'm saying? Hey guys, welcome back to another one. We never film by the pool, but it's beautiful out, and like I said, I want to enjoy some adult swim time, so I think I am going to float around for a little bit in the pool while we start this week's challenge. And this week's challenge was kind of difficult for me to decide on because it's honestly not much of a challenge. I mean, I guess it is. But I talked a little bit in my most recent TBR about how I am fighting a slump really bad. And it's this interesting slump where it's not like I can't find a book I want to read. I just don't want to read at all. I have only completed one book in July so far. And like, that's not horrible. As long as you're reading. But the point is, I usually average like 6 to 10 books a month, depending on the month and my motivation and the books that make it to my TBR. So finishing one and we're 2 weeks through July is not boding well for me. And the motivation I'm having is just non-existent. Like, I just cannot sit down and read. I just can't. So that got me thinking about what I want to do this week. And I really specifically have to be intentional about what specific books I choose, because if I choose the wrong book or something that I'm not necessarily like in the mood for, my slump is never going to end. It's just going to continue. So I don't want to be forced to read books, aka I don't want to do one of our wheels that kind of like pushes me in the direction, because normally if it's a book that I'm not 100% feeling at the time, I can get 100 pages into the book and like motivate myself. Like, now I'm into it because I know what's going to happen. This week, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that I have the brain power to motivate myself. Oh, don't mind my vacuum. That's Kirby. We named him Kirby, and he's the hardest worker in the house, and he's about to go up onto the wall and make this ridiculous noise. So Kirby is working hard. He is like a full-time worker at our house. So there he goes. Thanks for your services, Kirby. Really, we appreciate you. Anyways, so what I wanted to do today was I wanted to more make it like a timed challenge to motivate me and to challenge me to actually sit down and read. So this week, I am going to attempt to do another 4-hour-a-day reading challenge where I get to pick my own books, but I'm going to try to read for 4 hours a day. And I'm hoping that this will really like jumpstart my motivation into reading again. So this, by the way, is my timer. It sometimes looks like I'm like swinging something weird around. It's the timer from my camera that starts and stops it so that I don't have to keep getting up. So if you're wondering what I always have wrapped around my finger. So I am going to select my own books, but read for 4 hours a day. So I guess the first thing we should do is figure out what I want to read right now. We should pick something off of my TBR, shouldn't we? Okay, I just looked through my TBR, and the two that I was really feeling right now off of July's TBR was Enigma and Nectar of the Wicked. However, for some reason, I cannot find Enigma on my Kindle, which I swear I bought it. Maybe I didn't. So we are going to go with Nectar of the Wicked to start this. It's a dark fantasy romance, book 1 in the Deadly Divine series. I'm going to get 100 pages into this, and I have about 45 minutes before I have to leave to go get my son from camp. So I'm going to get like 45 minutes into this, and we will come back and give you my final thoughts after I'm back. But in the meantime, let's go enjoy Adult Swim. I don't think you're going to be able to see it, so I'm going to put it up on the screen. My float is floating away. But 4 hours up on the clock, and here we go. looking a little rough, but that was honestly the most glorious morning I have spent in so long. I jumped into the pool, got out of the pool, got in the pool, floated around, read my book, got out of the pool, sat in our loungers and read my book. I really told myself and promised myself that I was going to let myself not only slow down and enjoy this month, but when I say enjoy, I mean like enjoy my home that we pay for. Have you ever felt that way? That you work so hard and you pay so much for your home and your things, and then you literally never just get to like sit back and enjoy them? And I really have had just the craziest couple of months, which I am so blessed to be busy. Like I've said a million times, that is not me complaining. I'd rather be busy than be stagnant. But I did tell myself that part of what is causing my little mental slump, I think, is the fact that I'm constantly running and going, and I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. And I never just allow myself to like slow down and enjoy home and enjoy what we have, because we're so blessed. And this morning I was very intentional about just enjoying a few hours by my pool, and that's exactly what I did. So I obviously started the day with 4 hours on the clock, and now we have 2 hours and 2 minutes and 35 seconds left. So I read for about an hour and 58 minutes. And for some reason, after 2 hours, in this version of the book, I'm on page 92. In the Kindle, I think it says I'm on around page 90. So they're about the same. And I don't know why, but I'm reading this so slowly. 2 hours in, I've only gotten through 92 pages. I average about 60 pages an hour. Usually I read for 60 minutes and I get 60 minutes through. So I was expecting to be like 120 pages into this, and I'm only 92 pages. So I'm reading this a little bit slower than usual, but I'm just going to chalk that up to the fact that when you start a new fantasy book, it's not really like starting a contemporary romance where you can just kind of be thrown into the story and all you have to worry about is like learning the ins and outs of your characters. When you're starting a new fantasy book, you have to learn characters and an entire world that you can't relate to because it's a fantastical world in a fantasy book. So you have to learn the politics, you have to learn the world, you have to get the characters. If there's any like powers or magic, you have to learn the magic system and what character has what power and if it works in this world. So fantasies for me always start a bit slower than just like picking up a romance and diving right in. And I think that's why I'm just starting this a little bit slower. Hopefully my pace picks up and like normalizes after this. Because when I tell you that I am eating this book up, I am loving this. This is exactly what I needed. And I don't, am I getting 5-star feelings so far? 90 pages in? That's a little bold. It's a little early to say that. But if I had to rate this book right now, it might be a 5-star, 90 pages in. I mean, there's still so much time for things to go wrong in this book. And for me, the ending of a fantasy book kind of like makes or breaks it, right? Same thing with a thriller. The endings make it or break it for me. But 90 pages in, I kind of can't find anything wrong with this so far. The characters intrigue me. The world is super cool. We're going to talk about the synopsis in a minute, but for right now, just take my word for it. The world is super cool. The writing is great. The spice, 90 pages in, we've gotten some spice and it is doing it for me. I like it. And I'm loving, like, I'm intrigued by the storyline. Like, I want to know what's going on and I'm intrigued by what she's building. So let's talk about it. So our main female character, at least to this point in the story, believes that she's what's called a changeling, which I believe is like half human, half fairy in this world. And she was taken from the fairy realm in exchange for a human girl being brought over. So a human girl was taken from her family, brought to the fairy realm. And this main female character, changeling, was taken from the fairy realm and given to that girl's mother, who it's kind of been hinted at this point that it wasn't taken like voluntarily. I'm pretty sure this girl was like stolen from her mother and brought to the fairy realm, and then they were basically just like, here, take this changeling. Why our female character was ejected from the fairy realm has not been explained yet, but basically it said that she was just given to this woman, and because of that, because this woman associates our main female character with the reason her actual biological daughter is gone, she has treated her horribly for the last 20 years. She actually didn't even ever give our main female character a name. She just referred to her as Flea, like the little pesty bug. How horrible is that? She just basically referred to her as this like pest that irritated her. Her name was Flea. I think It's implied that sometimes she says that she pronounces it as like Flea to people in public, so like kind of to hide how mean she's being to our main female character, but I'm reading it as Flea, and we all know what it means, that she views this girl as just like an inconvenience and a pest and something that's like beneath her. But she has a lot of animosity for our main female character because she views her as the reason why her actual daughter was taken. And the motivation of that horrible guardian is to get her daughter back and to dispose of Flea. However, she assumes that at some point the fairies are going to come back and want to do another even exchange. They're going to want Flea back in exchange for her daughter. So she's never actually like literally disposed of her. She's done the bare minimum, like caring for her, as in like putting a roof over her head, feeding her, but she's never given her love or shown her any sort of kindness. And she always has been treated, our main female character has been treated as below her guardian. So every single year in this world, there's something that happens called the Wild Hunt, where the fairies come over to the human realm and they have basically like a market where they can trade between the humans and the fairies. So you can bring your coin and trade for fairy items. The fairies are sometimes intrigued by human items that they want. However, it's very dangerous because the fairies are kind of ruthless, right? So it's not unusual for humans to be hurt when they go to trade during the Wild Hunt. And I think it's even implied that maybe when the guardian's daughter was taken, it might have been during the Wild Hunt. I don't think we've really gotten that explained yet. But long story short, on Flea's 20th birthday, her guardian brings her to this wild hunt being like, good, it's been 20 years, like take her back. Where's my daughter? I want her gone and I want my daughter back. And essentially what happens is it all goes wrong at the market. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but Flea now finds herself in this position where she has to pay back the many human debts that this guardian has accrued over the years taking care of her. And the only way that she's been able to scrounge up money is by accepting this proposition from the Lair of Lust, which is basically like a brothel. So she's going to go and work in this brothel to try to pay back the debts that her guardian had accrued while she took care of her for the last 20 years. And this mysterious man comes into the brothel with these brilliantly blue eyes, and he may not be who he appears to be. I'm going to let you figure out what that is. But I think the most intriguing part for me is that our main female character, because she knows that she's half fae and she knows that she did at one point live in the fairy realm, she's never felt like she truly understands who she is. And there's always been this thought in the back of her mind, wanting to know where she's really from, wondering whatever happened to her real parents, wondering if her real parents even miss her or want her back. And also just like she feels this pull to figure out her past and how she got from the fairy realm to the human realm all those years ago and those 2 decades ago. And this book is just, it's drawn me in. I like Flea or Flea. I like her. The Lair of Lust is like scratching the spicy itch in my brain. And I also want to know Flea's backstory. Like I want to discover it along with her, on top of the fact that the way they describe this fae man is not horrible. Let's just say that. So I'm going to do the other 2 hours of my reading, and let's see if I can pick up my pace a little bit because I really want to know what's going on. So last night I did finish our 4 hours. However, I did not record anymore because I finished the last like hour and a half laying in bed before I fell asleep. And by the time the timer went off and I was done with it, I like finished out the chapter and I go, I'll just check in the morning because I wasn't going to pull the camera up or get up out of bed. So I'm going to go over our stats from last night from day 1 and let you know how I did. So yesterday in total on day one, I read for a total of 4 hours and 10 minutes. I exclusively read Nectar of the Wicked. I started on page 1 and I ended on page 187. Like I said yesterday, I'm so confused as to why I'm reading this like much slower than normal, because typically that would indicate that I'm not like super into the book, that I'm not loving it. And that's not at all true in this case. I am really enjoying this so far. Like I'm actually loving it so far. And I'm like eating up the story, and I love the characters, and the spice is good, and the plot is good, and the world is cool. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm liking it so much, I'm prioritizing taking my time on this and not rushing through it. But 60 pages an hour isn't even me rushing. I feel like that's a pretty average, decent, like just comfortable reading speed for me. But what is 187 in 4 hours? That means I'm averaging like 46 to 47 pages an hour when I normally average 60. That's a pretty big difference, and I'm not sure why. This is one of life's great mysteries that I have not yet solved. But overall, I think it was a pretty solid reading day. I read 187 pages yesterday on day one. So then, because I had gone to sleep last night with my Kindle in my bed with me, I kind of just put it on my nightstand, woke up this morning, picked it back up, and immediately just kind of jumped into day two. So I set the timer and I did read for about 32 minutes in bed this morning, got up, got the day started, and now we have a very minute problem because it is now 6:10 p.m. and I have not picked my book back up, and I've only read for 30 minutes. So I have 3.5 hours left to read today, and that should be more than enough time to finish this book, because I am like 70-ish% of the way through Nectar of the Wicked. I think I should be able to finish this in like 2.5 hours. So ideally, as long as I don't kind of have any setbacks, we will be picking up our next book today. So I think I should kind of crack down and focus. The camera back on yesterday, so I hope I got enough footage, because I honestly can't even remember what I filmed. But let's talk about our reading from yesterday. But first off, coffee. Today's coffee is a vanilla toffee latte with a drizzle of caramel, and I wanted to do either the extra creamy International Delight Creamer. I think it's called What Sweet and Creamy, or their new Southern Butter Pecan one, but I ran out of both because they're delicious. So the only one I had left in my fridge was the Coffee Mate White Chocolate Mocha. So it's a vanilla toffee latte with white chocolate mocha creamer with caramel. It's not my favorite, but it will do the trick. So stats from yesterday. Yesterday was day 2. I read for exactly 4 hours. I'm going to be honest with you. At like 3 hours and 55 minutes, I looked at the timer because I was kind of ready to be done reading for the day. I was kind of getting tired and I was like, I can't give up. I have to go for at least the next 5 minutes. And that's what I did. The second that that timer went off at that 4-hour mark, I was done. I didn't get any extra time, but I did finish Nectar of the Wicked by Ella Fields. I read from page 187 to page 338, which on my Kindle version of this book was the last page. So I read a total of 151 pages of this book to finish it, and I ended up giving this a 4.25 stars. This was so good. Like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. There were some slight plot holes, but I've said this before in videos, especially in the first book when I know that there's books after this. I try not to be super critical of minor plot holes because I guess I'm making maybe the poor assumption that those plot holes are left open purposefully to be cleared up in the next upcoming books. You know what I'm saying? So if I do read the second one, which is called Wrath of the Wicked, I don't remember what it is. I'll put it right here. I don't think it might be out yet at this point. I don't know. I'll put all that information right up here because I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I am going to read this one. And if after I read that one, the plot holes still haven't been filled and I realize that it's kind of just like a writing style that I don't 100% love, I guess I have a decision to make as to whether or not I continue on, but this was so good. It was so good. It was a bit of a slow burn, and I'm not always obsessed with slow burns, but this was done in a really great way. Like, I don't think we actually get to the quote romance until like 3/4 of the way through this book, but the rest of the story was so good, and the spice and the love and the attraction was seething under the surface, and it was written in such a way that you were intrigued by it and you were looking forward to it and you were waiting for it to happen. You were kind of like foaming at the mouth for it to happen, that I didn't mind it. And at the end of the day, this is a 338 page book, okay? So a slow burn in a 338 page book has to be done right. There is nothing worse than a slow burn in a 800 page book where you don't even get any romance until page like 600. You've read 600 pages of build up for that. That's what I don't really love. In this like completely reasonable sized book, it didn't bother me as much. It was very good. I am so excited to continue on in Ella Fields' other works because I have her Amidst Clouds and Bones, Amid Clouds and Bones, I think it's called. I have this one right here that has been getting very good reviews as well. And after reading this, it only makes me more excited to see if this can become like a new auto-buy author for me. So after I finished Nectar of the Wicked, I still had some time left on my timer. I think I had like 55 minutes left on my timer, and I picked up Same Time Next Summer. This is also on my July TBR and just seemed like the best book to read by the pool in the summer. Like, this is a book that I honestly probably wouldn't pick up outside of the summertime just because it seems very summery and I am kind of a seasonal reader. So I did pick this up, and it started on page 3 and I ended on page 62 when the timer went off. So I read a total of 59 pages in this book. So page 62, 59 pages in, let me give you my initial thoughts of this book. So we are following our main female character, Sam, who has, it's giving kind of like Summer I Turned Pretty vibes in a way. So she has grown up going to this beach house outside of New York in the summer, and there's a family that lives next door who has kids as well, and her brothers and that family and their kids have become very close and they hang out, and she strikes up this young love with the boy next door named Wyatt. Well, fast forward to what, 20 years later, 10 years later, something like that, she is coming back to this house to visit her family with her new fiance, and here's Wyatt playing his guitar next door, and he's back for the summer as well. I don't know why, but to me, this is just like almost the exact plot of Summer It Turns Pretty with like minor differences. And I keep getting those Summer I Turn Pretty references. This is like Belly and Conrad, or like Belly and Jeremiah written in another way, to be honest with you, with like older characters, because in the present time, they're no longer teenagers like they are in The Summer I Turned Pretty. But I have read one other book by Annabelle Monaghan. Or Monaghan, I don't know how you pronounce it. But I did read Nora Goes Off Script, and that one was just like mediocre to me. I liked her writing. Her writing reads very quickly and it's very succinct and simple, but it also like sprinkles in some really beautiful quotations. However, it was the storyline and the characters of Nora Goes Off Script that didn't completely work for me. However, this book is the best of both worlds because you are still getting the beautiful and simple and easy and fast Annabelle Monaghan writing with the gorgeous quotations, but I'm liking the story of this one better. And like I said, I read 59 pages in 55 minutes. So that kind of confirmed what I had said before, that I was reading Nectar of the Wicked a bit slower than normal, because my normal pace is a page per minute and I am back on track more or less with this book. So I definitely was slowed down in the Ella Fields book, and I am back to reading at my normal speed when I get right back to Annabelle's writing. So I am liking this. And while I was reading, I did kind of make note of some examples of the beautiful writing, and I kind of like, I couldn't highlight because I didn't have my highlighter out by the pool, but I took a photo of it. So I want to share some of this with you so you can understand what I'm saying when I say that her quotations are beautiful. So this says, in the drawer of the desk is a sketch pad that contains early versions of the drawing I did of Wyatt. I don't need to take it out. I see them perfectly in my mind. It was a super alive summer when all of my senses were on a delicious high alert. It was the summer I noticed everything. The way the salt dried on my skin, the way the sand settled between my toes, the way Wyatt smiled at me while he was composing a song. We hung the final version of my drawing on a rusty nail on the treehouse wall, back before we knew how early precious things could disintegrate in the salt air. It's just such beautiful writing. So this is after she gets to her parents' home with her new fiance and she realizes that Wyatt is also in town for the summer. So Sam turns to Jack, her new fiance, and she says, I turn to face him. Do you care that he's here, my old boyfriend? I guess he's here to break into the music business, but I'm sorry it's this weekend. Well, it turns up the drama a bit, doesn't it? Jack laughs a little. I know, but you don't mind, do you? And I realized that I want him to mind. I want Jack to fully understand the seismic impact of that breakup on my life. It's like when you've been trying to cover up an ugly scar, but also sort of want to show it to people so that they know what you've been through. Don't be silly. Why would I care? You were kids. Jack goes back to his book. She just said so much in that simple couple of sentence conversation. And as a reader, you feel what she's saying and you've been there sometimes and you infer what she's implying, that she just so desperately wants her new fiance to care, not because she wants the toxicity of jealousy, but because to her, she wants him to understand how much of an impact that breakup had and it formed who she was, and how much of an impact that Wyatt was on her life. And to her, the fact that Jack doesn't care more means he cares less, if you understand what I'm saying. And I felt that in my bones. And that's just a classic way that Annabelle Monaghan writes, that she takes something so simple in the simplest conversation and she makes you feel other things when she's writing it, if that makes sense. So those were just two that stuck out to me in the 59 pages total that I read. So we are going to reset our timer. We are going to continue on with Same Time Next Summer today. And hopefully it is another successful 4-hour day. what? Like, I just got to the point that I'm assuming is going to be like the conflict here. And I'm mind blown and outraged and disappointed in some of these characters. Like, not in the book, just, it's like one of those conflicts that you're like, where are we going to go from here? Like, how is this going to work out at all for anyone? Like, that definitely took a turn. It's not anything that I haven't seen before, but in this particular book, it took a turn that I did not see coming. Like, it's not like a super like revolutionary conflict. I've seen it before. It's been done before, but like these characters did not seem like that was where this was going to go. Wow. Okay. I think I need to go grab a drink and have like a minute to like process my disappointment in some of these characters. My God, that's a lot of characters. Holy goodness. Okay. Well, let's see how this goes. And there's Latin. Okay. 5,000 characters and quotations in Latin. Why do I do this to myself? Guys, I don't know what ended up happening, but I ended up absolutely locking in on my reading today. And I feel like I wasn't even trying that hard. Maybe that's why it happened, because I always do my most productive reading when I don't realize I'm even being productive, and I just kind of like zone into my reading undistracted. I don't really know what happened, but I read by the pool this morning and then decided that I was going to go. My nail lady called and she said that she could move me up for my appointment on the 29th to today, and I had like a half hour to make it there. So I quickly like wrapped up, ran to my nail appointment, and then sat for an hour and a half while I got my nails and toes done and just read straight through, completely undistracted. And for some reason that unlocked something in my brain that just put me on the trajectory of reading for like the rest of the day. So let's talk a little bit about my reading stats today and what I ended up finishing. So I started same time next summer on page 63 today, and I ended up powering through all the way to the end of this book and finishing it on page 285. That's insane. Like, I don't even really feel like I tried that hard in this book today. And what is that? 220 something pages. And I ended up finishing it. And I gave this a 4-star. So for comparison, I've only read one other book by this author, and it was Nora Goes Off Script. And I gave that a 3.75. So I did like this one slightly better. The storyline was very cute. The characters were cute, but there's just something about the plot points in Annabelle Monahan's books that always just at some point or at multiple points during the story just have me being like, come on, like that's not realistic. Like that wouldn't happen like that. And it's not that I need hyper realism in a book all the time, but this was stuff when you are not in a fantasy book and you're supposed to be in a contemporary romance, and this is like these days set in New York City, they're working very realistic jobs, they're having very realistic conversations, and then this like very unrealistic plot point comes in. It's just, it just gets kind of obvious to me that that would never happen. And it disconnects me from the story. And it happened in Nora Goes Off Script where I liked, like, the story was okay, the characters were okay, but then there were plot points that I was just like, this is dumb. You know what I'm saying? Like, this would never happen. And that happened again in this book where I was enjoying myself and then something would happen that just kind of pulled me out of the story because I would kind of roll my eyes and be like, what? That would never happen. So they're cute. They read so quickly. So I know that I could sit down with an Annabelle Monaghan and within 24 hours, I'm going to be done. I'm going to read it in one day. It's going to be good because it's just simple writing. They're short 285 page books with relatively big font and I like them. So is it my favorite book of the year? No, but it was better than the other Annabelle Monaghan I read. Just slightly. They're both cute. They're cute. Numb out, zone out, read it. It's a cute time. So then after I finished Same Time Next Summer, I kind of had to figure out where I was going to go next. And I decided to pick up Blood of Hercules. I actually have a couple different versions of this book. In my TBR, when I picked it, I showed the Page and Wick version. I have said this before. If it is at all possible to avoid reading my special editions, I try not to like muck them up by like opening them up and bending the pages, potentially like bending the dust jacket. If I had to, I certainly would. I'm not opposed to it, but I like having like the Kindle copy or another copy. And this copy that I ended up picking up and reading was a gift from a fabulous subscriber. So I'm going to read her note that is inside the book. So I've said this before, if you ever go onto my wish list, which is always linked in the description below, and you send me a book, please be sure to write a gift message in the gift section because I keep your note in the book. So I always remember it's from you. And this one says, "Hi, I found your channel through your TBR videos and now I look forward to your new videos all the time. I absolutely love this book, but it is definitely not for everyone. So I'm interested to see how you feel. Love, from Michaela." Michaela, you are so sweet. Thank you so much. And I am reading this version, the one that you gifted me. And I went from page 13, which was the first page of this book, all the way to page 159. I read for a total of 4 hours and 17 minutes today. So I went a little bit over my time because I was just so intrigued with where this was going. And like you said, this book, I think you are completely accurate in your description that this book is not going to be for everyone. And I'm so conflicted on how I'm feeling with this book so far because there are things that are being done so right in this book. I just think that the storyline and the plot line and the mythological retellings and the Greek retelling aspect is just so cool and has so much potential. And so far, I'm really liking the world. So if you don't know what this is about, we are following our main female character, Alexia. Is it Alexis or Alexia? It's Alexis. So I was close. We are following our main female character, Alexis, who is being fostered by a really, really horrible couple who abuses substances, physically abuses her, doesn't take care of her, starves her, and is raising her in just this environment that is not conducive to a child. I believe it said in the beginning of the story she was like 10 or 11 years old and she was physically abused. So check your triggers. There are some hard things to deal with in this book. And long story short, she ends up finding out that she is a hidden Spartan warrior. I'm not going to get too far into how she finds out because I think that's kind of a cool part of the story and I want you to read it for yourself. But through a series of events, she finds out that she is a Spartan warrior and she is transported to this Spartan war college to train in like a gauntlet competition, essentially, to eventually become an actual Spartan warrior. And if you do make it through the college, you become immortal when you become a Spartan. So that's the motivation. And I mean, really, she is living such like a hard, horrible life beforehand that she really has nothing to lose by going to the Spartan war college. And it kind of like keeps her away from her life that she had. However, there is a second foster child in her family named Charlie that she's very close to, and she's kind of been his protector against these horrible foster parents. So I know right now in the story she's struggling with being at this war college and kind of feeling like she abandoned Charlie and she's not there to protect him anymore. So I'm intrigued to see if that comes into play at all in the rest of the story. So like I said, there's so much potential in this storyline. However, I'm not really liking Alexis for some reason. I just feel like for a girl who is written and we are explicitly told that she's such a survivor and she's so strong and she's so smart, and in order to make her way through her hard circumstances, she's had to be such like a schemer and a problem solver. The minute that something stressful happens, she just kind of crumbles. And you're like, where is this girl that's such a great problem solver? Like, I don't know. I'm not getting it. Like, I'm not buying it. I'm not seeing that in Alexis. But more egregiously, I'm just going to say it. There's no beating around the bush here. This writing is really bad. Like, I won't say it's okay. I take that back. It's not that it's bad all the time. Like, there are sections of this book that Jasmine Moss shows that she can absolutely write. And this girl is so smart, by the way. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that she's actually a lawyer. Like, she has her law degree. She's obviously an intelligent girl. And the amount of research that went into writing this book and the means of like Greek mythology and like mythology in general and the gods and all of that stuff. I mean, it's apparent that she did a ton of research and she's smart and she knows what she's doing. But in order to get inside of this younger main character, Alexis's head, I feel like Jasmine really cheapened her writing and her research with using ridiculous TikTok trendy language. And I'm not talking about like here and there it's thrown in. I'm talking about like it's almost on in every single chapter. And it is making me absolutely want to crawl out of my skin. I hate it so much. I despise it. It's done too much and it makes me I can't explain to you how annoyed I get and how cringed out I get every single time this character says something just completely ridiculous. I'm actually not going to say this out loud because I think YouTube would get mad at me, but I am going to put up on the screen right here, like a screenshot that just, I stopped and I closed the book. I was like, oh my God, why? Like stuff like this that is just not needed. It doesn't add anything. It's not funny. That's not funny at all. It makes me not even be intrigued by what's going on in the story because this adds nothing. And it actually is like why? Do people actually think this way? Like, why? It's childish. It's trendy, cringy, Gen Z slang that I just don't understand why we're doing at this Spartan war college with Greek gods. Like, I just don't understand it. And I'm not going to say any more because it's pretty pervasive through all of the chapters. But if you go onto Goodreads and read some of the 1-star reviews for this, there are 1-star reviews that actually like pull out specific quotes. And I haven't gotten to those parts yet, but some of them are mind-blowingly bad. It's just bad writing, to be honest with you. And there's no use for it. So I am very conflicted because I think I'm holding on to this shred of hope that I can see past the cringy banter and dialogue and inner monologue of this trendy TikTok writing and see it just for like the story development and the coolness and the originality of the plot. So I keep hoping, but if I was just reading this book based on writing, I probably would DNF it. That's horrible to say, but I'm still holding on to the fact that this might get better and that I might actually be able to focus on the plot and not the writing so far. So we're going to continue. I actually did redeem an Everand credit, so I am going to listen to this on audio as well. And I'm a little bit worried that the TikTok talk will be even worse on audio, but I will keep you informed. I'm going to bed now because it is now 12:40 in the morning and I am exhausted. I'm going to bed. That was a good day of reading and I'm hoping that I can make my 4 hours again tomorrow because I think if this continues reading as quickly as I'm reading it, especially with the audiobook, I think I might even be able to finish this tomorrow. That might be a little wishful thinking because I'm on page 159. I think there's like 500 pages in this book. So we shall see. But today was a very productive reading day. Okay, that's it. Night, guys. See you in the morning. I'm gonna need a sip of my coffee for this one. You better get buckled up because I'm coming in a little hot this morning. So I woke up this morning and my whole household was still sleeping. My husband's sleeping. My 2 kids were sleeping because they stayed up a lot later than I did last night. And I spent over 2 hours reading and listening to Blood of Hercules. I am now chapter 18, page 300. Goodreads is saying it's like 60% of the way into this book. This book is not good. This is not a good book. I'm just like personally, subjective. Everybody's tastes are different. For me, this is not good. And I'm trying to decide every single time I like flip the page, I'm trying to decide whether I want to DNF this, especially because I have a rule with my reading and on this channel that if I make it 50% of the way through the book or more, it still counts on Goodreads because I did read 300 pages of this book and waste hours and hours of my time. And if it's not for me, I shouldn't be penalized for that. It's just like a taste thing, right? Like it's just a stylistic thing. So I would still give myself credit for this as a DNF on Goodreads towards my reading goal this year. So there's really nothing like necessarily keeping me from DNF, like as far as a penalty on my reading goal. However, I don't know how to, I just see so much potential with this plot. I'm just trying to fight my way through the horrible, atrocious writing, trying to cling on to this plot that I think could be really good. And it's just, the writing is not getting better. And I find myself like physically angry about it because it's so bad. So I took a couple of notes on my phone, like as I was reading over the last 2 hours, because obviously I wasn't filming. My whole household was sleeping and I didn't feel like coming on here and like whispering. So I was taking notes on my phone as my thoughts went on to discuss in this video. So let me grab my phone and give you my thoughts. Okay, here are my notes about this book. So I'm just going to kind of like read off my initial thoughts that I was kind of jotting down while I was reading, and we'll kind of discuss it as we go. So the first thing I said was, first of all, this place takes place at a Spartan war academy where everyone is going through training and trials to become a Spartan. It was originally not clear why a character would even want to be a Spartan other than immortality. But since then, it's now been established that there are creatures called Titans that attack the world, and the Spartans are the ones that go fight them and protect the world. Whatever. Okay? Like, that was my first initial thought, that I was sitting there being like, why are they even doing this? Like, okay, they get immortality, but like, that isn't even like a perk for some people. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's lived such a horrible life. Like, why would she even care? Apparently, they also go to the Spartan War Academy because these creatures attack the world and the Spartans go and protect them. So I guess that's like a motivation if you want to, like, it's basically like our military, right? Like, you want to join the military. So cool, whatever. That gave a little bit of context to the book. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm trying to be intrigued by the plot line. Like, I'm trying to get it. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so then the other thing that struck me as I was reading is if you flip and you read about the author on the back of the book, it says, Jasmine Moss has a degree in ancient Greco-Roman classical studies from Georgetown University, like an intensely good school, and is a former lawyer who spends all her free time writing about strong women and magical worlds, okay? So this is kind of what's like keeping me from DNFing, because she clearly has a grip on the subject matter. Like, she is clearly has like some sort of mastery in it, right? Like, has gone to school for it in Greco-Roman classical, you know, literature and classical history. So when you're reading this book, it shines through in her writing that she has a ton of very high level knowledge on this stuff, which is what is almost frustrating me more, because if she had just stuck to what she knows, right? And if she had just written a book using that high level knowledge in Greco-Roman classical studies that she got from Georgetown, this would have been infinitely better. But instead what she does, and I'll get more into this, but partly because I think she thinks her readers are dumber than her, is she like dumbs it down with this like slang and TikTok and cringy like modern language. And I think she thinks that she's being relatable to her readings, to her readers, and that people who are reading this will be like, oh my gosh, this would have been so above my head. But now that she's saying that, like, I totally get it. Like, I relate to the character. Like, it almost comes across to me as condescending. Like, she doesn't think that she could just write a book with her Georgetown Greco-Roman classical influence without dumbing it down so that we could understand it. That's the way it's coming across to me, because I'm reading the parts that are written intelligently and show her vast breadth of knowledge on the subject, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I get this. This is amazing. Like, tell me more about this Spartan academy and this Spartan world, and tell me more about like fighting the Titans and the different like animal accompaniments that each of these godlike characters have, and tell me more about like the gods having offspring with the humans, so there's half-breeds. Like, tell me more about this. Like, I'm into that. And then she comes on the screen and she's like, oh, slay queen, and I'm like, You totally took me out of it. Slay queen? Slay queen. You're saying that in a Spartan academy as one of the most badass people in this planet, and you're saying this to the child of a god? Slay queen? Like, what? Like, I'm not that stupid. I don't need you to do that. Like, I liked the serious parts of this world, and it's actually, like, I don't know if you could tell, but it's pissing me off. Like, I want to read about what she's good at, which is Greco-Roman classical studies from Georgetown. That's what I want to read, because I'm smart enough to get it, okay? I might not have my degree from there, but I'm smart enough to get it. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I said. I said that she's obviously intelligent and clearly has a background that would suggest that she has a grasp on this subject matter, but the modern slang and idiocy of your female main characters in her dialogue just completely undermines the potential intelligence of the plot. There you go. And it insults the reader. Let's be honest. So then that kind of theme kind of continues, because this book just tells the same jokes over and over and over and over again. It's almost as though the female main character has no ability to think of subject matters in her head without going back and repeating what she said 1,000 times before. And I'm going to give you some examples. Every time the female main character says the word lip, like L-I-P, throughout the entire book, she has to reference the female genitalia. I'm not going to say it, but every single time she says lip, this goes on. And I'm purposely doing this to show you just a few times that I noticed it. There's probably more. I don't know, but here we go. Another example, every time the female main character mentions a bird, sees a bird, or a character in the book comes near a bird, she says that the government uses birds as spies and drones. Here we go. Every time. Over and over and over again. This is only in 300 pages. I still have another 200 pages left of this book. So who knows what's going to happen, but look at this. Look at this. Every time. I don't think she's ever mentioned a bird without saying that it's a spy government drone. And this is an example of what I was saying before about it's like insulting to the reader, because it's almost as though the author feels like we won't be able to understand her humor unless she just repeats it to us and like drills it into our brain over and over again. And it's just insulting, because I want to look at her and go, I get it. Like, I get it. You don't have to keep repeating yourself. I get it. I'm grasping the joke. I really am. So in my notes, I said, to me, this just cheapens the writing and honestly insults the reader, because it's as though the author thinks her humor is so much wittier than we can comprehend, and that she has to explain or repeat it every single time. I said, we get it. Trust me, it's not that deep. And to be honest with you, it's just kind of not that good of a joke in the first place. Like, once was enough. Furthermore, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. I get what this author was trying to do, right? Like, this was this author's attempt at like feminism, okay? Like women are just as strong as men, and women can do anything that men can do, but better, right? Like, that's what she was going for in this book. Does she accomplish it? No. She accomplishes the exact opposite. This female main character is weak, ineffective, she's airheaded, she's ditzy, she has no ability to focus, and there is zero ability to strategize. In this intense wartime world at this intense warrior academy, she has no ability to strategize without the help of all these men at the academy. So it literally does the exact opposite of what she's trying to do. So like what I'm saying is that the author is trying to make some like broader comment on gender equality and make like this social commentary in this book, while simultaneously writing the female main character as literally like the worst stereotypes of women there are. All of this to say that this writing is just objectively bad. It's just really bad writing. I'm going to end it there, but side note that it just came to my brain while I was like reading my notes. She's also obsessed with puke. Like her characters just throw up everywhere all the time. Everyone's puking on each other, around each other. Everything that happens, somebody empties the contents of their stomach. Like I swear to God, someone pukes in every chapter. And they're puking on each other, next to each other, near each other, while they're eating, after they're eating, when they're scared, when they're embarrassed, it is constant. She's obsessed with throwing up. I don't get it. It's gross. And I think that's just another example of bad writing because she thinks that she can't write fear or embarrassment or anything like that without going to the extreme of like her characters just puking everywhere. Like, figure out a different way to say that they're scared. So now that I'm done with my rant and I'm trying to like calm myself down and get off my soapbox, I'm trying to figure out whether I'm going to DNF this or not. Like I said, I have another 200 pages of this book, which is another maybe like 2.5 hours of reading, and I have an hour and 41 on the clock. So like on the one hand, I'm like, just finish it out. But on the other hand, I'm like, that's an hour and 40 minutes that I could be getting into another book. I'm still going to give myself credit for this regardless. So is it sad that I still kind of want to know what happens at the end? But like at the same time, I don't care. Like I just don't care. I don't know. I'm going to think on it and I'll get back to you. But right now this is sitting at like maybe a 2-star, maybe a 1-star, maybe a 1.5 stars, just for like the parts of the world building that I do like, and for the parts of the Greek mythology that I'm liking, and the Roman mythology that I'm liking. But yeah, maybe like a 1.5 star so far. I'm done. 5% in since I last talked to the camera. I physically cannot do it anymore, okay? I'm going to put up 2 quotations that I read that just put me over the edge, and then had a conversation with a friend, and I think it speaks for itself, okay? So I was reading and I highlighted these 2 quotations. One I can't even say, okay? That one right there, I can't even say on YouTube. But then this masterpiece. Too bad Charlie had once said I had the countenance of a platypus and the energy of a deranged squirrel. This is what you're reading. Ancient Greco-Roman classical studies from Georgetown. And this is a sentence that was in her book. And this was a sentence that was in her book. This is what you're dealing with when you pick up Blood of Hercules. I'm so annoyed right now. But then I chatted with a friend who finished this book and gave it 0 stars. Like gave it 0 stars. I think it's 1 star on Goodreads, but you know what I'm saying. 0 stars in theory. You have to give a rating on Goodreads. And she goes, do me a favor, if you're going to DNF it anyways and you don't care about potential spoilers, go to page 401. Just read that page and it will make your decision to DNF. So I did. No spoilers here, obviously, but I'm just going to show you the one quote that she was talking about. So I flipped to page 401, and this is a real quotation that's written in this book. C word, absolute C word, served. One character looks at another character and says this. This is a quality of writing that you are subjecting yourself to when you read this book. It's not even the word. I don't care less about words. One thing you'll find out about me is that I don't care less about words. Use whatever words you want. Words are not violence. Words do not hurt me, okay? I don't care about the words. It's the audacity. It's the idiocy. It's the insult. It's not for me. This is not for me. I am so annoyed at the potential that this book had that isn't actualized because of writing like this. DNF, that made the decision for me. I'm DNFing this 60% of the way through. I'm giving myself credit for it and a 1-star review on Goodreads. And we are moving on because I still have an hour and 30 minutes left to read today. And I'm not wasting another second of it reading this. So I actually know where I'm going next. Let's talk about it. I don't remember exactly how far I am through it, but I have to catch up on our chapters for the Homey and Homely's book club for August, which is Summer in the City. So I'm going to do that for the rest of the day. I'm going to spend the next hour and 30 minutes catching up and reading Summer in the City and catching up with the book club because I need a mental reset from that garbage. I'm so hooked on the Sour Patch Kid Ghosts. This is a blue raspberry Sour Patch Kid. I need a little boost of energy today. I'm dragging. I've been out by the pool in the sun a lot of this afternoon, and the sun sucks the life out of me for some reason. But I'm here to tell you that not only did I finish my 4 hours, I went a little bit over my 4 hours, and I finished Summer in the City for the Homey and Homely Book Club. And I realized that I kind of told you that I was reading this, but because it's a book club book, I kind of read it like over the month. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I do run a completely 100% always free book club of about 515 amazing readers over on the Fable app. Like I said, it's completely free, and we choose a book together every single month, and then I break it down by the chapter and we discuss by the chapter as we read. So I try not to get like too ahead when I'm reading. However, that sometimes causes me ironically to fall behind because I'm trying to like moderate my reading. So I did just go ahead and finish Summer in the City with my last hour and 41 minutes on the clock, and then I read an extra about 34 minutes. So I did read 4 hours and 34 minutes today. But I realized that when I told you guys that I was going to go and pick this up and read this for the last like hour and something of my time, I did not tell you what it was about because I'd been reading it slowly over the month. So I think in my brain, I didn't realize I hadn't discussed it yet. So Summer in the City by Alex Astor is about our main female character whose name is Elle, who is a screenplay writer, but she writes anonymously, and she is coming back to New York City to do a project for a screenplay that she has to write. And she ends up going to a club with her friend one night and meets, through a series of events, our main female character, Parker. And they have kind of an unfortunate first interaction that's kind of funny, so I'm not going to give it away for you, but it leaves a bad taste in Elle's mouth. So imagine her surprise when she finds out that the apartment that her studio had rented for her means that Parker is now her new neighbor, and he's also a tech billionaire, and she can't stand money because she's a modern woman, and she has trauma from her situations that she's been through, which I'm also going to let you read. Which got a little obnoxious, not gonna lie. So I gave this a 2.5 star. I know it sounds bad, but after the last book I read, that was a bad review. This one is average. 2.5 out of 5 is just perfectly average. I probably will not remember that I read this book in the next couple of months. It was fine. It was a little rom-com. It was a book, but I'm not gonna remember that I really read this. The writing didn't stand out to me. As far as our characters, I actually could not stand our main female character, Elle. I found her obnoxious. I found her immature. I found her hypocritical. I found her rude. I found her very dismissive to our main male character, Parker. And for like 75-80% of the book, I really liked Parker, and I actually felt like he was a little bit too good for Elle. But then in the last like 20% of the book, Parker kind of lost me too, because he just came across as like desperate and almost like sniveling. Like he was like a simp for our main female character. And I was just kind of like, ooh, I don't really know that I love you either. Basically, long story short, without going too far into it, all of the characters in this book needed some level of therapy. And that got a little annoying, but it was fine. It was cute. If you're not like me and you're not a very character-based reader, you'll probably like this a lot more. And I will say, I live an hour and a half outside of New York City. New York City is my favorite city on planet Earth. I've traveled the world and I always come back to New York City. If you are reading this just for New York City vibes, for the love of Manhattan, you should pick up this book because Alex Astor is a pro at writing Manhattan. She talks about a lot of places I've been. She's talked about the vibe of the city and describes it really well. She talks about Manhattan at night, which is just like magical if you haven't been there. So if you're reading it for New York City vibes, this is a good one. But overall, just kind of meh, average. So something kind of came up. I think I was reading that book, talking to people about that book, but then also had a situation with a friend arise, and I want to talk to you about it because it really did kind of like teach me something, which I mean, not really teach me. It's not like revolutionary, but I want to talk about it a little bit. So I was reading Blood of Hercules, right? And it just was not for me. And I was talking to friends about it. And while that was going on, about a week and a half ago, I was chatting with another friend of mine, and she's trying to get into reading fantasy. She's more of like a straight literary fiction, women's fiction, romance reader. And she's been trying desperately to get into reading fantasy, more specifically romantasy, because it's a kind of like a good bridge and good introduction and like a good transition from romance to fantasy, like, you know, keeping that romance element in it. So she had asked me originally for like, what's a good book that you would recommend to bridge a romance reader kind of into romantasy fantasy? And I said, obviously, Fourth Wing. This is literally like an Infinity Star read for me. It's one of my favorite books I've ever read. So I was like, Fourth Wing. And we talked on and on and on about this book, and I raved about it. And I like went on and on and on about how much I love it. She's going to be obsessed with it, and she's going to be obsessed with characters and all this stuff. So I said, hey, I'm going to send it to you, like as a gift from me. So I sent it to her. And she called me yesterday, and she basically, I picked up the phone and I was like, oh my God. And I thought she was going to be like raving about Fourth Wing, right? And we were going to go crazy and we were going to like, you know, geek out over Fourth Wing. And I picked up the phone and I was just like, oh my God, tell me all about it. And this was her reaction. She literally goes, what in the holy hell did you send me? And I was like, that good? Like, are you that in love with it that you can't even like form words? She goes, this is the worst book I have ever read. This is horrible, Lindsay. What in the hell did you do to me? Like, what did you set me up for here? And my jaw could have hit the floor. I was so shocked. And we went on and we talked about it. She absolutely hates Basgiath War College. I'm obsessed with it. Like, outside of Hogwarts, that's like the most immersive word to me. Actually, it's like Hogwarts, Night Court from ACOTAR, and Basgiath are probably like the three most immersive worlds to me that I've read yet. She hates Basgiath. She cannot connect to it. She doesn't understand it. She basically said that she was out from like the parapet scene in the beginning. Like, she was done. She didn't want to read about it. I talked to her about the characters. She thinks that Violet is horrible. She thinks she's sniveling. She thinks she just doesn't like her. She's like a weak little victim. She doesn't like her. I said, okay, but surely Xaden Ryerson blew your socks off, right? Because he is like top tier book boyfriend with like Rhysand for me. Like, I love Xaden Ryerson. And she goes, he's horrible. He's horrible. And by the way, if you watched my last video, guess what she picked up on? The skinny jeans. She goes, how could you even be into him? He wears skinny jeans. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the picture she got in her head was so different from the picture that I have of Xaden in my head. Hates him. She can't stand the dialogue. She hates the story. She can't stand the dragons. I'm obsessed with the dragons. So obviously, all of this to say that it really did drill into my head that reading is just so incredibly subjective, because a book that's literally like top tier, God tier for me, Infinity Stars, I could literally reread Fourth Wing over and over and over again. She literally DNF'd it. She's like, I'm done. I can't take it anymore. I think she only made it like 40% of the way in. And she's like, Lindsay, I'm done. And I talked to her a little bit. She was like, maybe this like romantasy thing really isn't just for me. But after talking to her and figuring out what exactly specifically she didn't like in Fourth Wing, I think I'm narrowing in on what romantasy books would probably be like more her speed, more her style, more her preference and taste. So it really is sometimes just that simple. You just got to kind of like narrow in on what your tastes are and what your styles, and everyone is going to be different, which I think just gave me a reality check as she was like hating Fourth Wing so much and is a book that I love. And then I was hating Blood of Hercules so much, and I know that there are so many readers out there that this is like an infinity star book for, and they're obsessed with it, that like just because one person likes it or one person doesn't like it doesn't make their opinion right. It's simply their opinion. And I think that that conversation with my friend happened at exactly the right moment to make me realize that even though for me, Blood of Hercules was like a DNF, like 0 to 1 star read, for so many other people, it was an amazing piece of literature, and everyone's just different. So all of that to be said, it was a reality check for me that every opinion is subjective, and maybe like a reality opinion for anyone who's watching that feels upset or feels offended that loved Blood of Hercules and that I didn't. I completely understand what you're feeling, because my knee-jerk reaction when she said that she hated Fourth Wing was to be like, what? And to be like mind blown and offended, because like I'm obsessed with it. But everyone's different. So yeah, a little thing, but let's move on now. But now let's go over my stats for the entire reading vlog and for the week, quote unquote. So with that being said, I have a little bit of an update for you. So technically my weeks are like 5 days. Sometimes I'll throw in a 6th day. This video, my reading week, is only 4 days, because what you guys didn't see is that in the middle of this week, I did have a family emergency in my extended family. And there was one day that not only did I not read, I did not film, and I gave myself the day off because I was away dealing with this emergency. Everyone's fine now. Everything's good, but it did take an entire day, and it was relatively serious. So that did take me away from reading. So this reading week is only going to be 4 days. So outside stuff, guys, it happens. So for this week, which was actually 4 days, I read a total of 17 hours and 1 minute. In that 17 hours and 1 minute, I finished 3 books total and DNF'd 1 book, 325 pages in, 65% of the way through. So, you know, a little over 3.5 books. I read a total of 1,061 pages, which works out to about 265.25 pages per day, which averages out to about 66 pages per hour, which is more or less average for me. But the reason why that was kind of a cool stat for me to see is because I really do feel as though I read Nectar of the Wicked a little bit slower than average. So if you kind of extrapolated that out, I actually think that I went significantly over my average of 60 pages an hour. And that makes me excited, because maybe my reading pace is increasing since I'm reading so much. So let's do a quick recap of everything that I read this week. I started out our week with Nectar of the Wicked and gave this 4.25 stars. Then I went into Same Time Next Summer and gave this 4 stars. Then I picked up Blood of Hercules and I DNF'd this 65% of the way through. And honestly, guys, I've only gotten more upset about this book. This might be my worst read of the year. And next I picked up Summer in the City and gave it a 2.5 star, perfectly average, nothing that stuck with me, but was fine. And that was it, guys. That was my reading for the week, aka 4 days. You know what this really taught me? Not only that reading is subjective, like I said before, but this did teach me that if I just set aside 4 hours per day and prioritized reading, I could finish 4 books a week. That's so crazy. That averages 16 books a month, which I don't believe I've ever done. So clearly I'm just not prioritizing the right things, and maybe that has to change. So if you have stayed this entire time, comment the clock emoji for all the time that I should prioritize reading and not doing all the other things that take up 4 hours of my day that I don't need to be doing, and then do all the things that you are so professional at doing. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one, which will be my TBR. Bye, guys.